You just have to look at the traffic levels here in the UAE to know that the economy has snapped back in Q3 and Q4 following the nation's textbook performance during the pandemic. But as ever, the nation's ambitious economic growth plans are not focused on the here and the now, but the future and the rest of the world. And I'm delighted to unpack today what some of that future holds, to be joined on AB Talks by Dr. Thani Zeyoudi, the Minister of State for Foreign Trade and the Minister in charge of Talent Attraction and Retention. Dr. Zeyoudi, welcome to AB Talks.
Thank you.
So you've recently announced that the UAE has begun a number of talks with nations focused on what we called comprehensive economic partnership agreements. What's the strategy behind that? What's the main focus and what's the benefit for UAE?
First of all, it's really a pleasure to be with you today, speaking about our plan for the upcoming 50 years. During the governmental reshuffle in 2020 at the middle of the pandemic, one of the main messages by His Highness is to ensure that we're going to be one of the fastest economy in the world that's going to be recovered from the pandemic, and at the same time we're going to prepare ourselves for the upcoming 50 years. So we've been doing very extensive benchmark globally, what has been boosting the various economies around the world, and what are the best practices when it comes to this huge jump and growth in their economies. One of the main tactics, one of the main activities that many countries, especially in the last decade, has been applied is the comprehensive economic partnership agreements, as well as the free trade agreements by many other countries. And we looked at those best practices, and especially the growth which happened in Singapore, Switzerland, Israel, Indonesia lately as well. And the openness of their economy is one of the main driver for this huge growth that they gained in the last few years. So we went back and we looked at what we have achieved in the last 50 years, and we noticed that the openness, what we achieved in the last 50 years is because of the openness, and continuing with the same fundamental is very crucial. So one of the bold decisions that we took is to ensure that we're going to open up our market to the rest of the world. As you all know, the global is an open market now, and everyone is connected by the sea, connected by the logistics, connected by the airlines, and we have to ensure that we play our role as a global economic and trade partner. We analyzed the success which we did in the last 50 years, and the openness and the engagement with the various economies, countries, regions, blocks, were an integral part of our foundations, and to ensure that the continuations in this growth and continuation on this excellence when it comes to economy and trade is going to be heavily dependent on openness. So we've been in direct contact with many countries to see who's willing to with us with the same pace, especially that the supply chain globally has been disturbed. Geopolitics is affecting the trade and businesses. The employment is becoming a big critical matter to governments. So we want to make sure that we speak to like-minded countries. And we came up with the first batch of countries to be part of our 50 project of the 50 as a celebration to our 50th anniversary, and at the same time as a foundation for the upcoming era of our new economy. His Highness set a very tough target to the UAE and to us, and he wants to double our economy in less than 10 years from now. And we have to ensure that the foreign trade is an integrated part of this huge doubling in our economy for the upcoming 10 years and as a preparation for the next 50 years. So we decided that we're going to move with the comprehensive economic partnership agreements where we open up the market. It's not only about the trade, it's not only about commodities or services, it's about investments, government procurements, coping with the new norms, coping with the new ideas, the digitalizations, and the IBs, innovations, sustainability aspects, as well as the talent movements around the world.
Before we dive into who the countries are, and I'm aching to know who they are, you mentioned there that this is a comprehensive economic partnership agreement, which is slightly different to a foreign trade agreement. Just explain for our audience the difference. The
free trade agreement is really focusing on two aspects, the commodities and the services. The huge focus goes to the commodities, which was the conventional practice globally. The Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement is more broader. It's going to cover the trade aspects, plus the services, which we're very strong on here in the country. But also we're talking about the government procurement. We're talking about the investments, strategic investments, the protection of our own investments in those regions and countries. SMEs, which is very crucial. If we're talking about the new economies, we have to ensure that we're creating and establishing, we're attracting unicorns, we're ensuring that the scale up of our SMEs and the entrepreneurships has to cope with this new thoughts, and it's an integral part of our CEPA as well. The sustainability aspect, we're seeing now the discussion on the carbon tax in Europe, the sustainability aspects, which is pushing the consumers to and pushing even through the consumers and clients, the manufacturers, to change the way that they're running the businesses. I want to make sure that we're embedding those thoughts, principles in our industries and our businesses, so they don't have challenges or barriers moving forward. And at the same time, they smoothly integrate their businesses with the international businesses and ecosystem. So it's more comprehensive. It's like merging economies to our economy and ensuring that we really move from being a regional nation to a global nation.
That sounds like perfect timing. While you've got Expo 2020 taking place, obviously you're inviting the world into the UAE, but at the same time the UAE is reaching out to the rest of the world in terms of economic partnerships. So who's on the list so far? Obviously I'm from the United Kingdom, so I'd be interested to see if they're in. We saw the recent deals, with the $13.8 billion deal between the Badler Life Sciences, the UAE and the UK. So there's obviously a long partnership and a friendship there. Who else is on the list?
Well, our ultimate goal is to ensure that we're connected to more than 95% of the global trade and global businesses. So it's not going to be limited to those 8 countries, which I'm going to mention in a few seconds, but also it's going to be with the whole world. Why we start with those 8 countries? It's because of their first and initial reactions to our request. And we're talking about India and Indonesia, which we have started already the CEPA discussion and negotiation, and it's going very well. And we're even expecting those negotiation and discussions to be even finalized ahead of the agreed timeline between us. We started with South Korea as well just a few days ago, and we're starting soon with Israel. We're in discussion with Turkey. We're hosting the Joint Economic Committee meeting sometime soon in November, so it's going to be one of the main topics which is going to be initiated as well with the Turkish colleagues. We're talking with the UK, we're talking as well with Ethiopia and Kenya. So it's very broad, diverse countries. We ensure that through this initial engagements, we're having the IB discussion, innovation aspects, the connectivities, logistics, market access, the potential to grow through the investment, as well as the talent movements between us and those nations.
So you said His Highness has set you a challenging target to reach for in the next 10 years. What's the goal? Where are you trying to get to? What's right now the contribution of foreign trade is X to the national GDP. What's the goal? What's the hope? Where do you want to get to?
As I said, we want to double our economy in the upcoming 10 years. And the foreign trade is an integral part of the whole economy. The UAE and Dubai in particular has been a center for trade through the pearl trade, and then it has been transformed after the union to become a logistic hub, capitalizing on the modern infrastructure, the investment on the logistics chains, as well as the huge investments on free zones, as well as the retailers, etc. Moving forward, we want to make sure that we're converting and transforming the way that we're running the businesses. So through embedding the digitalizations and the e aspects to the way that we're running the business. It's not going to be only purely focusing on the commodity trade, but also the services, which is we're very strong on, and we can send huge expertise as well as businesses when it comes to services to the world. So we're going to continue exploring what are the best when it comes to the trade and services, but also let's not forget the investments that we do and the critical investments we're adding to the globe. Let me just give some examples here. Having the direct connectivities through Emirates Airline or Etihad Airlines to any part of the world. It means that we're going to bring huge investment when it comes to businesses, hospitalities, the restaurants aspects, the other associated services to those locations where we're connected to. But at the same time, We're taking our investors, the tourists, the people who are living in the UAE to those areas because of that easy accessibility to the market.
Yeah.
And from there, we're ensuring that there is a flow of investments going toward those direction. What we want to ensure through the SIPA and through the work which we're doing with the countries, that we really raising the awareness, raising and clarifying the potential opportunities to those business people and companies, and at the same time ensure that their investment is protected as well through this engagements.
What's the energy levels like right now in the UAE? Because it feels, I opened at the intro with, the traffic levels on the roads right now. There's a lot of people here. There's a lot of people been attracted to UAE. We've got Expo going on. We've obviously got the Jubilee in the 50th year coming up. You were one of the first nations. At Arabian Business, we held a forum basically asking the question, is the UAE the first post-pandemic economy? And the answer very firmly at that was yes, it already is. And that was months ago. So have you got the world looking at the UAE and going, we've got a lot right, and there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of ambition, you've got a young population, a lot of ambition. What are the energy levels that you're picking up?
What we have invested in the last 18 months is paying off now through the huge investment in the health infrastructure. And the way that we run the pandemic and the huge investment in vaccinations, the PCR, is paying off now. Basically, it was a preparation to ensure that there is a smooth opening of the economy to the globe. But at the same time, yes, Expo is bringing a lot of traffic to the country, but as well it's bringing a lot of investments, potential collaborations, engagements, cultural, traditional engagements and partnership with the rest of the world. And at the same time, it's really achieving the vision of the nation of being an open nation and sending very positive message to everyone that there is a hope even after such tough times, and we have to get together and we have to work together to ensure that we come out from such tough times much stronger. It's all connected to the strong basis which we did in the country in terms of the stabilities. We haven't went back in any single law or regulations during the pandemic so to make it much tougher to the people, to the investors. So we sent very strong message that we're very stable when it comes to the regulatory framework within the country. But at the same time, we even went beyond that and we start modifying some of the laws to ensure that we're preparing ourselves to the next era by the 100% investments, ownership to those, the residence system which has been totally revamped, and adding to it the green visa which has been introduced lately, the criteria which has been relaxed to the family to bring their families, and at the same time the accessibility to all services, education, health, the other services to any person in the country is easy, accessible. It has not been limited to a certain group or to the locals, but also to anyone who's living in the country. And at the same time, the clear vision that we share with everyone, where we want to go. The tactics absolutely is going to be changed with the time, depending on technology, depending on the interest of the global communities, and at the same time, what are the best way of reaching that without overcoming any of the global challenges. So those are combinations of everything, and that's why we're going to continue building and bringing the best to the nation.
Now, I noticed there are headlines this week that said that the UAE had jumped it was a HSBC report. There was a global index of the best places to live and work in the world, and the UAE is now the fourth in the world. Obviously, you'll be happy with that, but I know the UAE, you're going to be wanting position number one. But what are the incentives and what are the strategic advantages for companies and individuals investing in the UAE?
The incentives are vast and varied. We're talking about a very smooth ecosystem to the businesses when it comes to laws and regulations. And we mentioned some of the few laws which we amended lately. But also we want beyond that, bankruptcy laws, the personal matter laws, some of the laws which now are under the final revision, which is going to be announced at the right times. But all those has been refined, modified in a way that it's not going to take us backward. We're ensuring that we're building on the success which we have achieved so far. We're going to continue this openness in the country. But also the logistics and the infrastructure which we built. it's one of the state-of-art infrastructure which we have here, and we're going to continue building and reforming and modifying this infrastructure that we have. And infrastructure in terms of bridges, roads, schools, hospitals, shopping malls, ports, airlines, etc. If those infrastructure is not going to connect us to the world, we're going to go back and ensure that we're modifying them to ensure that there is an accessibility for us and to everyone around the world to the UAE. And at the same time, the human aspects in the UAE. His Highness, the founder of UAE, Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan, when he established the nation, he has been always pushing the human being to be the DNA of this nation. And this transformation which we did is because of his personal focus on the human being and the person who's living in the country. Through the investment in the locals and at the same time attracting the right mindsets and expertise to the country to ensure that we're taking the nations to the level what we're seeing now. Moving forward, our leaders are moving with the same directions, the directions which we always get. The human being is always crucial, treat everyone equally. We want to ensure that coexistence and tolerance is always maintained. And this is the principles which we're always taking forward wherever we go. And through the resistance system, which we modified and improved in close coordination with everyone. We were consulting the business people and communities, and from them, we're doing those refining and tuning of the system. We want to make sure that the stability of anyone who's living here. And we want to make sure that they really consider the UAE as home to their family, not only to themselves.
You talked earlier about the importance of SMEs and unicorns, and I can see the UAE's reaching out to entrepreneurs and saying, come here and be part of our story. You've got the National Coders Program trying to bring that innovative talent to this nation. So is this a place now, particularly with the green visas, with the golden visas, you're trying to create a climate where the dreamers can come and achieve their dreams?
Absolutely, and that's why we have a dedicated Minister of SMEs and Entrepreneurship who is working very hard on this. And absolutely, any economy is a mix of different pillars. Yeah. And one of the main pillars is the SMEs and entrepreneurship. And without them, countries will not be able to innovate. They cannot be able to create jobs. They will not be able to ensure the continuity of the growth of the economies. So if we're talking about this crucial sector, we have to ensure about the startup. Mm-hmm. And startup means that we're putting pressure on the new generations on coming up with the new ideas and be part of the bigger picture of the growth of the nation. Skill up, ensuring that they have the talents, they have the skills, we bring the right mindsets and the right skills to the country through the coders, through the engagement with the other big corporations, and scale up, where we want to ensure that we're talking the current and the highly potential companies to become a unicorn, where they're going to be part of the financial market, or even they're going globally. Our responsibility at the foreign trade sector is to ensure that we're providing them with the right market access. Yep. We bring the right talents to the nation, and we bring them the best practices where they can improve the way that they're in businesses. So it's an ecosystem which we're looking at holistically, and we have to ensure that the IBs as well is integrated on this, and we really bringing those state-of-art ideas to the way that they're running businesses.
So what are the timelines looking like right now then? It seems like there's a lot of energy. When do we think the first SEPA will be through the door, shall we say?
Well, I hope first quarter of 2022.
So maybe by the time before Expo.
Before the end of Expo, we're expecting to close 2 SEPAs, one with Indonesia and one with India, and there is a discussion now with the colleagues from Israel as well to do it quickly as well.
We're obviously talking about new partners there for the UAE. You've got a long history of partnership within the GCC. So how do you balance your commitments to the GCC with this outreach to new economic partners as well?
We're one of the main founder of GCC Secretariat, and we're engaging very closely with the colleagues at the GCC, and we're going to make sure that we're pushing the economic discussion through the GCC. If we're talking about the negotiation which they're doing, the overall economic negotiation, we're one of the main team lead on many aspects when it comes to those agreements, and we're going to continue playing an integral role and part of those discussion and negotiation.
Is there a sense that you attracting the rest of the world to the UAE is beneficial for the rest of the Gulf because they begin to see the benefits of being in this part of the world?
That goes without say, absolutely. Any growth happens in any country in the GCC will add value to the whole region.
Yeah.
And any new engagements globally or any partnership globally with any member of the GCC for sure is going to, there will be some spin-off positive impact to the whole region.
Yeah.
Through this CEPA, for sure, there will be a positive impact, and it's going to be as well ensuring that we're bringing the best practices, mindsets, businesses, accessibility as well to the whole GCC. Yeah. So that's absolutely goes without saying.
What's the main focus from these CEPAs then? Is it you're wanting to increase exports from the UAE, or is it that you're wanting to bring more trade volumes through the UAE in terms of it being a...
Well, it's more than that. Absolutely, we want to have market access to our commodities, to our services. We want to make sure that there is investment potential to our companies and sovereign wealth funds. Their investment is protected. The talent attraction to the country, coping with the new thoughts when it comes to digitalizations, infrastructure and connectivities, and ensuring that supply chain comes through the UAE, or even ensuring that there is a sufficient supply to our basic commodities to the country. And at the same time, we want to make sure that we bring as well investments to the country to fulfill our industrial strategy, our AI strategy, our advanced science, et cetera, et cetera. So for sure, it's a mix of everything, and we want to make sure that through the CEPA, we're really thinking about the whole aspects of economy through these engagements.
What do you touched on a couple of areas there already, but what would you particularly like to enhance or accelerate here in the UAE through FDI?
Well, there are so many sectors which we're focusing on, and the beauty about the UAE that each emirate has its own focus in a certain sector. But overall in the country, for sure, the industrial and advanced science, advanced technologies are one of the main sectors which we're looking at. Especially that just a few months ago, we launched the manufacturing strategies. In 10 years, we want to raise the contribution of the industrial into our GDP, and at the same time, we want to make sure that we bring the fourth industrial revolutions, technologies, robotics, AI, et cetera, to the industries in the UAE. Healthcare is very crucial. We saw not only the health equipments and the investments on the hospital service and health service providers during the pandemic, but also want to make sure that the accessibility to the high quality services is there as well. Pharmaceutical is very crucial, and we saw the movement now from the one supplier to more regional, reshoring some of the investments when it comes to the pharmaceuticals, health equipments, as well as the food security and food and agriculture. Yeah. So agriculture is one of the sectors as well, which we're talking about. And for sure, the energy aspect is going to be an integral part of this investment, either on the downstream or on the clean energy and sustainability aspects.
Just to dive into that a little more, because we kind of talking about what these partner countries might invest in the sectors within the UAE, but also what sectors are you actively looking to invest in the partner countries?
Again, as well, globally, historical investments of the UAE were focusing on real estate, infrastructure, energy sector. And lately, we start integrating the new sectors into our investments. We're talking about the fintech, we're talking about the pharmaceuticals, biotechnology, the huge announcements with UK, which you mentioned at the beginning, the £800 million investment on the advanced science as well. So for sure, those are the sectors which are going to attract our attention, and for sure we will not forget the sustainable energy and clean energy, the renewables, as well as the new discussion now around the green and blue hydrogen, which is dominating most of the discussions. Even through the bilateral through Expo, most of the countries are exploring the interests of the UAE and partnering, working, investing on the hydrogen, the blue and the green hydrogen.
Yes, yeah. I mean, been having lots of conversations just in the last week about green hydrogen. Talk to me about ESG for a second as well, because you kind of we touched upon it almost at the beginning of the interview, where you're saying there's lots of regulations out there, but the UAE is endeavouring to be at the forefront of those regulations, so that companies know that they can come here, set up, invest, and actually that they're going to be in harmony with the growing kind of ESG voice that there is in the world right now about the environment, about sustainability, about governance.
Well, the UAE has been always taking consideration the sustainability aspects. We're a nation where His Highness the Founder himself has been always, Sheikh Zayed has been always taking consideration the environmental aspects. When it comes to the UAE, we do have very strong regulations when it comes to the attraction of investments, giving the full authorities, the full flexibilities to the business people when it comes to the ecosystem in the country. But at the same time, we want to make sure that they have the market accessibility so they can grow from the UAE. Yeah. And through the various announcements which has been done lately, and even through the work which we have been doing in the last 15 years, through the investments in renewables and investment in efficiencies, the carbon neutrality which has been announced as well just 2 weeks ago. Yeah. All those are integrated to the way that we're running the businesses. And for sure, we're going to continue these improvements and developments of our regulatory system. So through this CEPA, we want to make sure that sustainability is taken consideration, and if we're not going to be bringing the best practices to the country, we want to be really achieve the main objective of such engagements.
So we come and sit back down here in 5 years' time. When we talk then, what impact will CEPAs have had on the economy of the UAE?
I really hope that we're going to reach halfway of doubling our economy. Trade has to be growing, and we're expecting that the trade has to be almost doubling the current number. The investment abroad has to be diversified. And we're having a lot of billionaires and business people based in UAE and working from UAE and having those accessibilities. And again, going back to the SMEs and unicorn, we want to see 15, 20 unicorns in the upcoming few years in the country.
A land of unicorns. Dr. Thani, thank you so much for your time this morning. It's been fascinating to talk to you.
Thank you so much.